Hello, so it looks like there's been another incident involving a big American airline company, in this case, American Airlines. Um, the video seen is quite a bit different from the United Airlines video. What I want to do is talk about my reflections on what I see in the video, but more importantly, about the power of video footage in this day and age that people rush to judgment. And we all do it. I'm doing it. And I'm going to do it in a minute. But there's a few points I want to make around that. Okay, so here's what seems to be the case from the video. Basically, there are three main people involved. There is a woman, a male flight attendant, and a male passenger. Now, apparently, this situation came about because there was some fracas because a woman had brought a stroller on board the flight. A stroller, I guess, is an American term for a pram. That's the first time I've heard that word. Actually, I had to look it up. But basically, a pram of sorts. And as I understand it, they're prohibited on flights in the US. Now, the woman didn't seem to speak English as a first language. She seemed to have broken English, so whether she was European or something, I don't know. But she was quite dramatic. She was crying quite a lot and was clearly very upset. Now, the male passenger got up and wanted to know the name of male flight attendant. When this flight attendant appeared, the male passenger got very aggro and kind of squared up to the guy, saying, "Oh, you do that to me, or you try that with me." And apparently, what had happened was the woman's baby had allegedly been hurt in this fracas. So this passenger was playing the hero in a sense and squaring up to the flight attendant. Now the flight attendant kind of retorted like "bring it on" and was almost looking like he wanted to fight the passenger. So what has happened so far is American Airlines has apparently suspended this flight attendant and apologized. Clearly something had happened to make the woman upset, and clearly this passenger felt he had some reason to intervene. But what concerns me is so many people play judge, jury, and executioner based on a video whereby we only see the argument. We don't actually see what has happened. And when I first clicked on this, the Daily Mail, being the Daily Mail, had irresponsibly put a trashy journalism headline. Attendant threatens passenger with fight. What actually happened was he responded to what the passenger was doing. It was the passenger who was threatening to fight the attendant initially. The Daily Mail, being the piece of trash that it is, wouldn't report it that way. And this really annoys me and depresses me that so much journalism nowadays is clickbait. Now, to be clear here, I'm not saying that American Airlines is innocent. Clearly, they acknowledged that they were in the wrong. And I think the attendant was unprofessional in the way he handled it. As for the woman crying, I don't see that necessarily as proof. Quite frankly, I think she is being a bit overdramatic. Um, if her baby had been punched, certainly I can understand her being upset. But I think most mothers in that situation would be more than crying, they'd be very angry. Um, I'm not going to, say that she didn't have a reason to do that, but I have to be honest. I I take a bit of a dim view with adults blubbering away like babies. My honest thought with this is have a little bit of composure, because if you're in the right, then people are going to respond a lot anyway. There's no need to kind of completely lose your composure in that way. And she was being a little bit hysterical because the way I see it is the situation was being resolved. Now, the male passenger, as far as I'm concerned, was in the wrong because even if the airline had treated the woman badly, it was being resolved. He had no right to interfere. All he was doing was escalating the situation. So I sort of see it on surface perspective that all three were potentially in the wrong. I think the woman may have been overreacting. I think the male flight attendant was being unprofessional. And I think the male passenger was sticking his nose into something that was really none of his business. He acknowledged himself he didn't understand the whole situation. Um, but I also find it unfortunate that so many people like to play judge, jury, and executioner based on a video. Um, United Airlines was a bit different because in that video we could see it, clearly see the passenger being dragged away, but in this all we see is an argument. Um, and it was an alleged incident. Apparently, either the mother or her child had been hurt by the stroller in this fracas, but the insinuation with the way it's being reported is that it was deliberate, whereas it's an alleged incident, so it may well have been an accident. And then maybe she was stressed out and, she responded that way. I don't know. I think there are some people who will milk up a situation to get compensation. I do believe that. At the same time, I think that there is a tendency with American Airlines. I don't mean American Airlines, the company. I mean United States Airlines to have bad customer service. It is a recurrent trend, and you don't see it this much with airlines from other countries. So clearly, there is a problem in the way that they're handling these situations. But there is another side of this. People forget that airline attendants are only human, and frankly, if a customer is squaring up to you, okay, the attendant shouldn't have kind of retorted the way he did, but clearly that passenger was in the wrong as well. I'm not sure why people are treating him like a hero. He was getting involved in something that was none of his business. And it's not like the woman was facing any imminent threat. The airline stewardesses were comforting her, and he was just, being a have a go hero, frankly. That's the way I see it. Now, I wasn't there. I could be completely wrong. But this is the problem with snapshot videos. People rush to judgment. What I'm trying to do is look at all perspectives here. Um, so, yeah, the attendant could well have been very unprofessional. He has been suspended. I guess American Airlines don't want, the fallout that United Airlines faced. But all I would say to people is you cannot judge a whole situation based on video footage. And a woman crying, frankly, is not evidence. It's not. Um, some people are overly emotional, it's in their personality. It doesn't mean that the situation is necessarily as bad as her crying implies it is. And I'm not defending American Airlines. It sounds like certainly this attendant needs some training with the way he responds to passengers. But the male passenger, from my perspective, was the one looking for a fight, not the other way around. He actually said, "What's the name of that guy?" Like he wanted to, confront the guy. He should have stuck his nose out of it. He's no hero, you know. The situation was being resolved, and he stuck his nose into it. That to me is someone who's being a hothead. Um, okay, let me know your thoughts. But basically, I'll conclude with this. We're living in an era where people rush to immediate judgment based on videos. And the problem with videos on the internet is that they only ever show part of a situation. Now, there are some times where the camera doesn't lie. I mean, what happened with United Airlines, you could clearly see in the video David Dow being dragged away. But in this case, all we see is the argument. We don't see the action that provoked the argument. So that would be the point I would make. Let me know your thoughts. And let me know if you've experienced American Airlines, if you find them to be a good service or a bad service. Um, that's all I would say. People are just too quick to rush to judgment with these things. And I have been guilty at times myself.